Hi there. I have some pretty exciting adventures coming up. Part of them going smoothly is having a vehicle I can rely on. And today my vehicle is in the shop. It's having some recall work done on the sliding doors. Sometimes they open when I don't tell them to, and pretty often they don't shut all the way. I have to give them a good swat with my hip. So we're going to have that fixed. And they have a nice waiting room, but it's absolutely gorgeous outside, and I'm just not feeling the whole inside vibe thing. Almost never do. So I'm gonna be out here and have a few hours to kill. But my motto is, as long as you have something to eat, something to drink, and something to do, you can pass the time pretty comfortably and even have some fun, or at least get things done. So today we're gonna try to do a little bit of all of those. I'll show you what it is I brought to do. One thing I like to do when I'm at a new place is check out my surroundings. And since I'm at a car dealership, don't really want a new car right now, I figured I would walk across the parking lot and find a different sort of space. So I found this hillside on the back of their parking lot and saw this big old puddle. Thought I would check it out for signs of life, but there don't seem to be any unless you're into algae. No coon tracks, no possum tracks, no nothing, not even frog eggs in there. So there's the lower parking lot, and then I came across these. Well, that's close to a turtle as we're gonna find, unless we get really lucky, but I don't need that. But check this out, there are some pretty cool flowers. These are honeysuckles, and there's a whole bunch of them. I will zoom in. So that's kind of nice. And then I noticed over here, do you know what these are? I have a bunch of these in my yard, and they look about the same as far as development goes. These are mulberries. And it looks like they're going to have a really good crop. I'll bet they don't even know it. But they are going to have a fine crop of mulberries. And the birds will eat them. And then they will fly over the cars and leave all sorts of waste products on the cars, which will give someone job security. So I guess it's all good. But besides nourishing the birds, mulberries are also good for making jelly and just for eating, either with a bowl of sugar like I usually do with any berries I eat, or just plain right off the tree. They get pretty big too. Check this out. Look how big that tree is. All the way up there. So I make a mental note of this. If I don't have enough mulberries in my yard to make stuff with, I can come back here. I don't think anybody will notice or care. Well, I came over to the other side of the hillside to see what I could find, and really not a whole lot of interest. Actually, nothing of interest. No turtles, no snakes, no frogs, no toads, no tracks, no real signs of life other than myself, and people come down and move cars every now and then. So I'm gonna go see what I can get done that I brought in my bag today. So on my way back over there, something actually caught my eye. It's not a sign of life, but it's a sign of prior life. And I thought you might find it interesting. There's a cool little snail shell. So while I was down here checking out this one, I noticed in my peripheral vision that there's another one right there, and then a third, and then under this stick there's a fourth. I'll move the stick, you can see it better. So if a person had a need for 4 pretty cool snail shells, I can set them up. So I made it back to my little bag of things to do, and noticed that right by it are 2 snail shells that I never even noticed before. So much for feeling like I'm the observant type. But I'm going to sit right there on my stump and get going on some other stuff. So on top of my bag of things to do is a tie-dye dress that I found at the thrift store the other day, and it's way too big for me, so I marked it where I need to sew it last night so that it's not extremely low cut to the point that I'm uncomfortable wearing it. So I'm gonna get going on this. Mending is not my favorite. My mom's gonna be in shock that I'm actually doing it, but I'm doing it outside, and when I get that done, I will move on to project number 2. So the color of thread I needed to bring and the color of thread I actually brought are not the same thing. So if you see me wearing this super coolio tie-dye dress out and about, just keep your distance, don't inspect my shoulder seams, and we'll get on just fine. Also, I forgot my scissors, but I never forget my knife. Thanks, Dad. So we're all set. Gonna cut this off and start the next one. Well, I guess I should have left the video running because I'm sitting here with my something to eat, something to drink, and something to do, and evidently the dealership isn't used to people doing that, so they sent somebody down over the hill to check on me. Nice to know they have some pretty good video surveillance around here. So now that the tie-dye dress is done, I'm going to move on to task number 2 that I brought, and it is this. A super cool wind chime that I got for my boat, and it didn't do so great in the storm the other day because somebody decided that they needed to construct it with this goofy cotton thread instead of hefty fishing line. So I'm going to fix that situation here in a jiffy, and I brought some beads to facilitate that. Shout out to Angie for sharing some of her stash. And while I was digging all this stuff out of the bag, I had a really cool surprise. So I found these. I don't know how they got in the bag, but I was looking for them the other day and they were nowhere to be found. Stamps with otters playing in the snow, which is kind of funny because today it's over 80 degrees, and I'll bet some of the same people that were complaining about the snow are complaining about the heat today, but those otters don't look like they're complaining. They're having a lot of fun. So now that the wind chimes are done, it's time to move on to the third thing I brought to do. These require the same fishing line to fix as the last project, which is one reason I brought them. You might remember seeing little glass fish in the tank in my Rockin' Robin boat, and I wanted more, so I ordered some more, and I ordered a dozen and got 24, which was pretty cool. But they came with no string and no bubbles. And have you ever tried to find glass bubbles from which string and glass fish are supposed to be attached? No, probably not. I hadn't either. And when you do, they are impossible to find. So then I got in problem solving mode and decided that I could either go with a stick and tie several fish to the stick and go that route, which I might do with some because I have twice as many as I wanted, or I could use these, or attempt to use these clear bobbers. They're pretty small and they're as close to a glass bubble as I could find. So I'm going to string some up on these and see how they work. Just wanted to add a pretty cool tidbit of information. Since the company failed to send the fish with the bubbles and string attached, they decided they would refund half my money. And then I said, well, you know, that means I paid X amount of dollars for glass fish with no string and no bubbles attached, so I still can't use them for anything they decided that instead of sending the glass bubbles that I requested, they would refund all of my money. So I still have the same problem, but at least I'm not paying for it. In my world, having recall work successfully completed requires celebration, and celebrations require ice cream. And today I have splurged on raspberry chocolate chip ice cream with hot fudge on the side or on the top. So cheers. And no, this wasn't a paid endorsement. I just happen to really like this kind of ice cream. Like, for real.